did you ever think what it would be like traveling along in an open car without a windshield? Boy, you wouldn't go very far before you got all splattered with mud. And you'd have to keep your eyes closed so as not to be blinded by the dust. Well, when you're traveling along in life, Rangers, common sense acts as a pretty important windshield. It lets you see where you're going.
I am the greatest. Welcome everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. There is a lot going on out in the world today. I just want to do a tech check just to make sure that we hear everything. Okay, looks like we are good on the audio. We have our good brother Antonio Ray Harvey in the building. How you doing, brother?
I am doing really, really well, Brother Moya Glass. How you doing?
Man, brother, doing great, man. Doing great. Ready to rock and roll and get into the topic today, which will be actually continuing our conversation about SB 1327 and New Black Media, obviously. But before that, let's get into a little housekeeping as usual, family. So if you can, as usual, please go support our store at etmmediagroupstore.com. It will be down in the link description below. So please support our channel that way. You can do that. Also, if you shop at Amazon, go to our affiliate link, click on that affiliate link, and definitely shop and support ETM Media Group and Minimax Media Group at Amazon. We will be continuing the 1866 Reconstruction Treaties probably in August. We're probably going to have to push that to August. Kind of a lot going on. Also, if you are in California, you can find your rep at that QR code right there. Shout out to cjec-official.org. And we also have 41 Assembly, 21 senators, 1 governor equals California reparations. And if you have yet to become a member, please become a member to this channel. You get some behind the scenes content, community conversations, etc., etc. And we're probably in the future, probably once we get over some of these legislative hearings, we're actually going to be starting some educational programs. So members will get access to that as well. And let's see what we have here. If you have yet to see the 3/5 compromise and electoral college debacle, you can go right here on ETM Media Group, check that out. And also, if you have a chance, please support Elaine McKay and the situation that's happening right now with her daughter, Delana McKay. Unfortunately, she's no longer here with us. And Elaine McKay is fighting justice for her daughter right now. And so, yes, please go ahead and support Elaine McKay. Would greatly appreciate that. So, Brother Tone, let's actually just get right into it. We'll probably take the next few minutes or however long to kind of talk about what's happening in this political space right now, brother. So, first of all, let's start and let's give a little moment of silence and rest in peace to Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. So it looks like representative out of Texas, brother, passed away a couple days ago at 74. Man, brother. So what's your thoughts on that, man?
I will, my condolences for her family, because Representative Sheila Jackson was, extremely outspoken politician, and she cared so much about the Black community. And I believe she's been, in D.C. Advocating for us for just a little over 31 years. So I was kind of amazed to hear that news that she had passed away. I heard that she was sick, but I did not know her medical condition was related to cancer. I think she passed away of pancreatic cancer. But amazing woman, amazing politician, amazing advocate, for the Black community, for people as whole. She has some qualities as far as supporting the LGBTQ community as well. She was just extremely amazing person. So definitely want to miss her. To me, she was quite young. I think she was only 74 years old. So we lost a good one, Representative Lee out of Texas. I believe she's Jamaican too, isn't she? Born in New York.
Yeah, so I think her
born in Jamaica, grew up in New York, somewhere along those lines. So
her lineage is of Caribbean descent. And I'm wondering who's then gonna pick up the mantle now, brother, for HR 40. Since she currently took up the mantle from John Conyers. So this is going to be, quite interesting, since that bill's been sitting in Congress for 30-something years now, I guess we're at.
Yes, what was it, 1988 or 1989 when it was first?
Yeah, somewhere around there. And for those that don't know, that is the on the federal level, the study, to study proposals for and create a commission for reparations. So I'm sure those who follow ETM and who've been on that federal, you guys know what HR 40 is, so I don't want to belabor the point in that. But for those who don't know what HR 40 is and you're listening to this, just go do your search on what HR 40 is and you can read your bill or read the bill yourself, man.
Yeah, just to make it real quick, it was a commission created on the matter of reparations.
Yep. So let's talk about Joe Biden, brother. Wow. Recent news, man, that Joe Biden is dropping out of the race for the Democrats, man, and has supposedly endorsed VP Kamala Harris, brother. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was a bit of a shocker. I think I got it exactly 11:37 when I learned that he had been he had dropped out. He had stepped aside from the race. As we know, he has been dealing with some not exactly age issues, but mental acuity, a little feebleness. Just to be perfectly honest, just seeing how he was performing in that debate on June 27th, and that was hosted by CNN. I knew we were in trouble then. I knew all the other politicians, Democratic Party to be exact, was kind of worried about his status between now and the next 15 weeks. So for him to step aside like that, they said it's the first time it has happened in 56 years. That would have been Lyndon B. Johnson when he decided not to run for a second term, and the eventual winner was Richard Nixon. This is just pretty much where we are right now. And as you mentioned, Brother Glass, Kamala Harris, she's been thrown into the fire. She most likely will be the Democratic Party nominee for president of the United States. That's pretty much where we are, and I think it's really good and that Biden stepped aside to let this process play out another way, because as we also know, Trump was just officially named the Republican presidential candidate in Milwaukee this past week, so we have to deal with that too. So the country is in a really precarious situation right now as far as politics.
Precarious. That's an excellent word. Excellent choice of words, brother. So you spoke of Trump, and it's interesting when we talk about Trump because he had the attempted assassination as well. We live in some interesting times, and it looks like he has chosen James David Vance to run on his ticket. He's also known as J.D. Vance. And I did a little research on him, and he's a very interesting candidate. Looks like he's a senator from Ohio, brother. So what do you think about Trump's pick? Because I even heard at some point J.D. Vance actually wasn't a big fan of Donald Trump, man, at one point. So, yeah, what's up?
No, he wasn't. As you mentioned, yes, he is a senator from Ohio, so this is his first term, but he wasn't nowhere near the MAGA movement in the beginning. He really had some disparaging words for Trump early in his candidacy, and all of a sudden, he's a turncoat. He supported Trump, and not only that, he's run alongside Trump as the vice president nominee. So I was not entirely shocked, but just to know all the things that he had mentioned before, going in, he had said about Trump, like some really, really critical things he had said about Trump. And Trump to even say, hey, yeah, you're the man I want to be alongside, because you know how Trump is. If you criticize him in any type of way, he's coming for you. He comes for everybody who speak bad about him. So it's pretty surprising. But from what I learned in the last few days, J.D. Vance is all in. I mean, he is grasping a hold of everything that the Republican Party stands for, at least the MAGA community. He hasn't mentioned it, but he's pretty much promoting this Project 2025, Brother Glass. So, yeah, pretty interesting. And how many people that we have known who have went against Trump, and then later on, they kiss in the ring?
Man,
so many of them.
Almost everybody that I know. I mean,
it's almost like a Pied Piper syndrome. And I remember now, it's a fable. Brother Grimm wrote a story. Pied Piper comes to town. He's blowing his flute and this pipe, and all the kids follow him, and we never seen the kids again.
Right?
We never seen the kids again. It's a cult. That's what I'm saying. That's just it's a cult. You went against the man. Now you all for him. I mean, you love him. You kiss in the ring. You kiss his butt, basically. Excuse my language. But how many people have we seen go in the same direction with this guy?
Good point, brother. Good point. I'm gonna read a couple comments here.
Are you reading? I think your mic is muted, maybe.
Appreciate that, brother. It sure was. I was just yapping away, just talking to myself. All right. So happy he is dropped out. May Joe Crow following Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee, and may it be a gnashing of teeth exit. Never Kamami. Welcome everybody. No reparations, no Democrats. Hey. It's interesting, when we talk about, these candidates who are running for president. I mean, Trump hasn't supported reparations just outright. I don't even know JD Vance's stance on reparations. Obviously, we know Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they've been dodging, the reparations, issue. So, in scenario and situation. So, it's going to be very interesting, brother, how this election is going to turn out,
Brother
but as we
Boy,
said, yeah.
was it you or Kim or someone who approached Kamala Harris about the reparation question, and she pretty much ignored you guys? There was someone in that pack. They was trying to get that question in. That's what I knew right then and there. She don't want to deal with the reparation question.
Well, I think you're referring to Reparations Now, the documentary. She was actually asked on another, I think it was maybe the Griot, I think it was. And the interviewer asked her, so what is her stance on reparations? And so initially she went on to say, basically, I'm not going to do anything just for Black people. Might be saying that verbatimly, but that was kind of her stance at that particular time. Hey, it may have changed since then, but as far as I'm aware, and the last couple of times I've seen her out and about in the public, and when she talks about issues related to the Black American experience, reparations has not came up, and she hasn't talked about it. So I think the last time I saw something, she was out with like Steve Harvey, and can't remember, it was something like Black men's conference or something. Don't quote me, I don't know, but the last time I did see her somewhere out in public, she just didn't even mention it at all. Going around the subject,
it's going to really be interesting going forward to know what happened with this Democratic Party nominee. The convention is not until next month anyway, but that question won't go away. It will not go away, especially if somehow, let's just say she becomes president. Will she take it on or answer a few questions, something, in that regard, to let us know where she stands on it? We already know the developments are happening here in California. That's fine, that's dandy, that's beautiful. We already know a few bills are being pushed through the legislature, and a few of them are going to get signed into law. I'm sure of that. But on a national level, that's going to be pretty interesting, going forward there, because now we could be facing another moment in history where we could possibly have the first Black woman as the president of the United States. So where will she stand on many of our issues, including reparations, Brother Glass?
Yeah, and I think we also need to note that her lineage isn't of Black American descent as well. So we just got to put it out there, Now, regardless of her lineage, right, it's really about, does she support reparations? So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm glad you did bring up that point too, because I remember when she first ran for president back in 2020. She kicked off her campaign in Oakland, California, of course, and across the country, across the nation, everything, black woman, black woman, black woman. So she bails out, and then she's accepted as vice president nominee along with Biden. Then it's black woman and Indian woman.
Yeah.
And that's, at first that wasn't even said, okay? But when she became the vice president nominee, then she's, she shared both of her cultures, which I have no problem with, okay? Because we live in a time like that we have a lot of, biracial, mixed races individuals, beautiful people too. But yeah, I don't know where she's, politically stands, when it comes to something like reparations. But I would like to hear a few more details coming from her as far as addressing that really important issue in our community right now today. Where would you put it on the national level? Okay, and you are right. After the passing of Representative Sheila Jackson, where do we go from here? The Congressional Black Caucus, what do they do now? Or did they already have some plans in place, knowing that she was sick and she may not been able to carry out these type of duties? So those are a lot of things that has to be questioned. But number one, as we go forward, should she be talking about Kamala Harris? Should she become president? She got to provide us with a few details on this issue.
Absolutely, brother. She's I don't know what that is. Pajeet. That cosplays as a Black American HBCU woman to reign in BW votes. I mean, I guess it might be possible, Let's see. Jackson is another CBC. Reps, you're funny. We just have to see what's going to happen, within this next presidential election, right? And just be vigilant. We're a platform that gives information, so we're not going to tell people how to vote. People can vote however they want to. We're just giving people information. So that's it. All right, family. So let's actually get into also what we came here for, which is SB 1327. Now, the bill is pretty lengthy, so we're going to read as much as we can within this next half an hour or so. And Tony, I might have you jump in here, but we'll see if I need some help. If you can, here, let me blow this up a little bit. Thanks once again, family, for joining. Please like, share, and subscribe. And hit that bell, family, for notifications. So is it, can you see it, Tony, at all? The screen?
No. And I have my glasses on and I still cannot see it.
But do you see, I mean, I know you may not see the
I can't
letters.
I can't read the letters. I'm trying to pull it up on my computer though.
Okay, let me send you the I think I have the bill somewhere, brother. So let me send you the bill. And then we will go from
Email it to me.
Okay. Let me see here. SB 1327. And then I will go ahead and just pick it up. And then, as a matter of fact, brother, I'm going to put it in the private. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it in the private chat, and I'm also going to put it in the chat, too. So anybody who wants to read along, y'all can read along as well, if you would like. Okay, so I did put it in the chat, too, as well, family, if everybody wants to read along with this. We left off on section 2, and if you haven't seen the first episode or program on this, you can go back and check it out. But we're going to start from section 2 and then continue from there. All right, so we started off at section 2, section 17053.76 is added to the Revenue and Tax Code to read. For each taxable year beginning on or after January 1st, 2024 and before January 1st, 2029, there shall be allowed a credit against the quote net tax as defined in section 17039 to a qualified taxpayer that pays or incurs costs for qualified services and that receives a tentative credit reservation. Let me just make sure that my audio is good, family, and we will continue because I don't know what happened, but last time I was reading and for some reason my audio went totally out. Okay, we are good. All right. 2, except as provided in paragraph 5, credit allowed by this section shall be the sum of both of the following amounts. A, the applicable amount calculated as follows. For a qualified taxpayer with fewer than 10 employees on the first day of the taxable year that satisfies the requirements of paragraph 3, the sum of the following: 40% of the qualified wages paid or incurred for all qualified full employees, 10% of qualified wages paid or incurred to qualified full-time employees hired on or after the effective date of the Act, adding this section and before January 1st, 2029, if the qualified taxpayer has a net increase in employment in the taxable year. For a qualified taxpayer with fewer than 10 employees on the first day of the taxable year that does not satisfy the requirements of paragraph 3, the sum of the following: 35% of the qualified wages paid or incurred for all qualified full-time employees, 10% of qualified wages paid or incurred to qualified full-time employees hired on or after the effective date of the Act, adding this section and before January 1st, 2029, if the qualified taxpayer has a net increase in employment in the taxable year. For a qualified taxpayer with 10 or more employees on the first day of the taxable year that satisfies the requirements of paragraph 3, the sum of the following: 30% of the qualified wages paid or incurred for all qualified full-time employees, 10% of qualified wages paid or incurred to qualified full-time employees hired on or after the effective date of the Act, adding this section and before January 1st, 2029, if the qualified taxpayer has a net increase in employment in the taxable year. For a qualified taxpayer with 10 or more employees on the first day of the taxable year that does not satisfy the requirements of paragraph 3, the sum of the following: 25% of the qualified wages paid or incurred for all qualified full-time employees, 10% of the qualified wages paid or incurred to qualified full-time employees hired on or after the effective date of the Act, adding this section and before January 1st, 2029, if the qualified taxpayer has a net increase in employment in the taxable year. 20% of costs incurred to acquire freelance content produced by individuals performing qualified services that is subsequently published or broadcast by the qualified taxpayer. Interesting. Glad they mentioned freelance. 3, for purposes of paragraph 2, a qualified taxpayer satisfies the requirements of this paragraph if the taxpayer provides their qualified full-time employees both of the following: employer-provided group health insurance, employer-provided retirement benefits or pension benefits, including stock in the employer under employee stock ownership plans where the employer pays for the value of the stock. If a taxpayer is eligible for a credit calculated pursuant to clause 3 or 4 of subparagraph A of paragraph 2 for the taxable year beginning on or after January 1st, 2024 and before January 1st, 2025, the taxpayer may not receive a credit calculated pursuant to clause 1 or 2 of subparagraph A of paragraph 2 for the following taxable 2 years. All right. Cool. Thank you, family, for letting know the audio was good. Appreciate you. All right, here we go. For purposes of calculating the amount of credit allowed by the section for a qualified small publication, the percentages specified in subparagraphs A and B of paragraph 2 shall be increased by 5. For purposes of this section, the following definition shall apply. Disqualified organization means any of the following. Okay, so this is a disqualified organization. Any organization exempt from tax under Chapter 4 of Part 11, except for an organization exempt under Section 23701D. Any organization described in Section 52.7 of the Internal Revenue Code. An organization that is owned or controlled directly or indirectly by one or more organizations described in subparagraph A or B. 2. Eligible local news organization means, with respect to any taxable year, any person or entity with primary circulation or distribution in the state who meets all of the following requirements. Publishes 24 or more qualified publications distributed in the state during the taxable year. Is not a disqualified organization. Does not derive more than 50% of its gross receipts, less returns and allowances, from disqualified organizations in the taxable year. Local community means, with respect to any qualified broadcast station or qualifying publication, a geographically contiguous area in the state that does not exceed the boundaries of. In the case of a qualifying broadcast situation, the area in the state for which the qualifying broadcast station is licensed to serve by the FCC under Section 307 of the Federal Communications Act of 1934. In the case of a qualifying publication, the following, this is B.I. Section 1 of the qualifying publication is primarily distributed in a metropolitan or micropolitan statistical area in the state as defined by the Federal Office of Management and Budget. The metropolitan or micropolitan statistical area in which a qualifying publication is primarily distributed. 2, if the qualifying publication is not primarily distributed in a metropolitan or micropolitan statistical area, the county in which a qualifying publication is primarily distributed. For purpose of the subparagraph, in the case of a qualifying publication that is a digital, okay, interesting, here we go. They're talking about digital stuff. Let's see what they're talking about. For the purposes of the subparagraph, in the case of a qualifying publication that is a digital publication, the qualifying publication shall be considered primarily distributed in the area where the publication is primarily consumed. So, Tony, I'm going to use the Sacramento Observer as an example. Would they be considered a digital publication and regular publication as well?
Yes,
or
yes, they're both. They're both.
Gotcha. All right.
They are both because they have a presence online and they definitely have a presence in print publication. As you know, I think they're still distributing all over Sacramento. So yes, they are both.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, brother. Let's continue. Quote, qualified broadcast station, end quote, means an employer who meets all of the following requirements. A, owns or operates a broadcast station as defined in Section 3 of the FCC Act of 1934 in the state, is not disqualified organization, derives no more than 50% of its gross receipts, less returns and allowances from disqualified organization in the taxable year in which the credit is claimed. A qualified full-time employee means an individual who meets both of the following requirements, except as provided in Clause 2, provides qualified services for an average of not less than 35 hours per week for each week the employee is employed by the qualified taxpayer, or is a salaried employee and was paid compensation during the taxable year for full-time employment within the meaning of Section 515 of the Labor Code by the qualified taxpayer. For purposes of a qualified small publication, provides qualified services for an average of not less than 30 hours per week for each week the employee is employed by the qualified taxpayer, who is a qualified small publication, or is a salaried employee and was paid compensation during the taxable year for full-time employment within the meaning of Section 515 of the Labor Code by the qualified taxpayer, who is a qualified small publication, resides in the state. Qualified services means gathering, preparing, recording, directing the recording of, producing, collecting, photographing, writing, editing, reporting, presenting, or publishing original local community news for dissemination to the local community. Qualified small publication means an eligible local news organization or a qualified broadcast station with 5 or fewer full-time employees throughout the taxable year. Qualified taxpayer means an eligible local news organization or a qualified broadcast station in the state. Qualified wages means those wages subject to withholding pursuant to Division 6, commencing with Section 13000 of the Unemployment Insurance Code for purposes of subparagraphs B and C of subparagraph 2 of subdivision A. Qualified wages also means only those wages paid or incurred beginning with the first day the qualified full-time employee provides qualified services to the qualified taxpayer. Qualifying publication means any print or digital publication that satisfies all of the following. So they are considering print, physical, and or digital. All right. The primary purpose of the publication is to serve a local community in the state by providing local news. The publication was published in the state during the taxable year and the prior taxable year. The publication is covered by media liability insurance. For purposes of this section, the following shall apply. All employees of trades or businesses that are treated as related under Section 267, 318, or 707 of the Internal Revenue Code shall be treated as employed by a single qualified taxpayer. All employees of trades or businesses that are not incorporated and that are under common control shall be treated as employed by a single qualified taxpayer. The credit, if any, allowable by this section with respect to each trade or business shall be determined by reference to its proportionate share of the expense of the qualified wages giving rise to the credit and shall be allocated to that trade or business in that matter. 4. Principles that apply in the case of control groups of corporations as specified in subdivision C of section 23622 shall apply with respect to determining employment. In case the credit allowed by the section exceeds the net tax, the excess shall be credited against other amounts due, if any, and the balance, if any, shall be paid from the tax relief and refund account and refunded to the taxpayer. The Franchise Tax Board may prescribe rules, guidelines, or procedures necessary or appropriate to carry out the purposes of this section, including any guidelines regarding the allocation of the credit allowed under this section. Chapter 3.5 of Part 1 of Division 3 of the Title 2 of the Government Code shall not apply to any rule, guideline, or procedure prescribed by the Franchise Tax Board pursuant to this section. All right. I think I might skip this because they talk about the Franchise Tax Board here. For those that are businesses, and especially in media, please look over this information to see if you do qualify. I want to skip ahead here. Let's see. All right, some more Franchise Tax Board here. Let's see. Okay, I guess we'll go to the next section. For purposes of complying with Section 41, as it relates to the credit allowed by this section and Section 23622, the legislature finds and declares as follows. A, the goal of the credit is to increase employment of local journalists in local news organizations. B, the performance indicators for the legislature to use in determining whether the credits meet the goal described in subparagraph A are the number of taxpayers who utilize the credits and the total dollar amounts of credits claimed. 2A, the Franchise Tax Board shall analyze the performance indicators in subparagraph B of paragraph 1 for each taxable year and shall report its findings to the legislature in compliance with Section 9795 of the Government Code on or before May 1st, 2032. The disclosure provisions of this paragraph shall be treated as an exception to Section 19542. All right, except as provided in paragraph 2, this section shall remain in effect only until December 1st, 2029, and as of the date is repealed. All right, so let me see. Okay, they go on.
So that means this bill, if it passed, will sunset in 2029 or 2030, I believe. Then I guess they're going to have to review it and look it over again and see if it's something that they want to continue. Because obviously, none of these are permanent laws or anything, but that's what it seems like it be there. And I had read that before. We had discussed that having a sunset clause around those years.
Right.
So.
And that's interesting, though. It looks like it's saying also regarding this it says the franchise tax board shall analyze the performance indicators in subparagraph B and 1 for each taxable year, shall report its findings to the legislature in compliance with section 975 of the government code on or before May 1st, 2032. So, 2032, obviously, if we don't have time to read this whole bill, but isn't that the report and findings? Isn't that pretty late? Shouldn't they have an annual?
I guess they're going to, after sunset in 2029 or 2030, it still will be taxable credit up until 2032. But I would think by then, that they would extend it if everything's okay with it, or amend it and extend it. That's a good question. I'm writing down some notes too, so I'm gonna have to contact the bill's author, which is Stephen Grazer, Democrat from Contra Costa. This is his bill, and get some more clarity on that part. That's a pretty interesting language right there. I'm glad you brought that up, and we're focusing on that too, Brother Last.
Yeah, that kind of like stood out to me, but looks like this is the language, so that's why we're kind of going through this. Let's see, the taxable year. Okay, report. Let's see, taxable years. Looks like some more. Okay, let's continue to section 4. So for anybody that's interested, definitely go over this tax information. Obviously, if you're in the media and if you're in business in general, I highly recommend looking at section 2 because it definitely goes into the taxable laws. Let's go into 4. Did I skip it? Wait a minute. Okay, 5, data extraction mitigation law. Wait, where's 4? I swear I saw 4. Section 4, the tax code. Okay. Section 5. Okay. Data extraction mitigation fee law. All right, Tony. Am I tripping? Man, I swear. Let me see where I'm at here.
I thought you was on section 4.
Yeah, I was on section 4 and
page 7.
Okay. Let me see. All right, family. I'm gonna get it together. Okay. Let's see. Section 4. Okay, we talked about code. All right. I think we're here, right? Section 5. Data extraction.
Section 5. Okay, so that would be. Okay.
So section 5, part 10.9, data extraction mitigation fee law. All right. Is this still talking about? I guess it's talking about taxes. Okay, let's go over this. Whatever data extraction mitigation fee law is.
Yeah, it's pretty lengthy too. In a nutshell, it's pretty much. I think the tax is what 7.75%. That's the state tax. So that's what they'll be mitigating from those 3 big companies like Amazon, Meta, and Google. Okay. That would be a mitigation fee. So that would be law. So that's. But anyway, let's read through it.
Yeah. Let's read through a couple paragraphs here. See what they're talking about. Data extraction mitigation fee law, chapter 1. This part shall be known and may be cited as the data extraction mitigation fee law. For purposes of this part, the following definition shall apply. Annual gross receipts means revenue from all sources before any expenses of any kind computed according to general accepted accounting principles. B1, data extraction transaction means a transaction that satisfies both of the following requirements. A taxpayer sells user information or access to users to advertisers. The taxpayer engages in a barter by providing services to a user in full or partial exchange for the ability to display advertisement to the user or collect data about the user. 2, gross receipts shall be deemed to be derived from data extractions transactions if they derive from the sales of advertising services on a digital interface, including but not limited to advertisements in the form of banner advertising, search engine advertising, interstitial advertising, and other comparable advertising services that use personal information about the people to whom the ads are being served. Data extraction transaction does not include web hosting services and domain registration. Interesting. So I'm going to repeat that again. Data extraction transaction does not include web hosting services and domain registration. Digital interface means any type of software, including a website, part of a website, or application that a user is able to access, and includes any type of software or any part of an internet website or application that a user is able to access. News media entity means an entity, however organized, primarily engaged in the business of news gathering, reporting, or publishing or broadcasting articles or commentary about news, current events, or culture. Person shall have the same meaning as that term is defined in Section 19, except that it shall not include a news media entity. User means an individual or other person who accesses the services of a taxpayer directly or indirectly with a digital interface. All right. They're talking numbers here, brother. So, on this channel, we talk numbers. I was actually going to skip this section, but I saw some numbers in here. So let's continue. Chapter 2, imposition of tax. 21202A1, commencing in taxable years beginning on or after January 1st. In addition to the taxes imposed under Part 2 and Part 11, any person engaged in data extraction transaction in the state shall pay an annual to this state a tax equal to 7.25%. I think you did mention that, Brother Tony. Percent of gross receipts derived from data extraction transactions in the state during the taxable year. Notwithstanding paragraph 1, the tax imposed by the section shall not apply to any person with less than $2,500,000,000 in gross receipts derived from data extraction transaction in this state in the taxable year. All right, Tony, I'm gonna look up one company, and then if you kind of want to comment on that, just give me your 2 cents on that, brother, while I look up some information.
Yes. Well, yeah, that $2,500,000,000, that would be the minimum from the company that will be extracted, mitigated tax from. So I'm thinking, if you are Google, Amazon, or Meta, Facebook, if you pulling in revenues about $2.5 billion per year, they're going to extract at least 7.25% as the gross receipt. So I think the whole measure is to accumulate $1 billion. So $500 million would go to global media organization, and this is money that's being extracted from these companies. Then another $500 million, I believe, go to schools. I think that's the way he set it up, though. So that's pretty much in the area of what we're talking about. But I think it's those 3 companies. in question that will be
Okay. Well, if you could,
extracted out.
okay. Well, if you could see on my screen, and this is according to companiesmarketcap.com. Looks like the revenue for Google in, I guess, 2024 is approximately 318 billion.
So this
All right.
so this law would this law would apply to them for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah.
They will impose a tax. They will impose a tax
318 billion.
if they got $3.18 billion. You go have to cough up some of that.
Yeah.
So don't ask me what
Yeah,
7.5% is of $3.8 billion. $1.8 billion. I'll figure that out later on.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing pretty good for themselves, brother.
Yeah, but see, they are doing good now. You know, before we go any further, you know, they're against this bill. There's two bills that they're against. There's another journalism bill, AB 866, and then this SB 1327. I've been seeing ads on television in opposed to these bills, especially SB 1327. And you know, the Republicans, they think that we tax too many companies in the state of California as it is, and that's forcing these businesses out of the state because of that. So Google, Meta, whatever, if the state feel like they're mining data from these newspapers or online, they can just cut us off and deal with the other 49 states.
Yeah, good point, man.
If they want to, that's but they're trying to work it out. Though. I know that they are. There's still a lot of things that has to be ironed out for either one of these bills hit the governor's desk.
Okay.
If they hit the governor's.
All right, man. Well, let's go over a couple next, I guess maybe a couple paragraphs, and then we'll get into the next topic. All right. So yeah, let's continue. Gross receipts derived from data extraction transactions shall be apportioned based on the location of the user. Data extraction transactions shall be deemed to be in the state if the user is in the state. The Franchise Tax Board may adopt necessary and appropriate regulations that apply other presumptions, default rules, and formulas in order to ensure that the apportionment results individually and in total fairly reflect data extraction activity in the state. The total amount of data extraction transaction apportioned to California should be approximate the proportion of the economy of California to the total economy of the United States as much as practicable. All right. A user is located in the state if any time it is responsible to conclude based on the user data associated with the user, including but not limited to the billing, delivery, or shipping address, phone number, area code, global satellite positioning data, and internet protocol address data that the user is located in the state. Gross receipts derived from advertisements not generated by a display to or interaction with a specific user shall be apportioned to the state based on the same fraction the person uses to apportion gross receipts derived from advertisement generated by a specific instance of display of an online targeted advertisement or generated by a specific interaction with an online targeted advertisement where the targeted user is located in the state at the time of the display or interaction. Okay, so anyway, we'll just go ahead and pause there. Looks like we did end up close to page 10. I might just read it at a later time. Just continue just to, make sure that we're all on the same page, and just maybe pre-record it and post it. But we'll go ahead and stop there, brother. Is there anything you wanted to say, man, before we segue into the next thing?
Yeah. I mean, I'm all in if you want to revisit this and finish it out. I think where we at chapter 3 will be the next section, the administration. So we can discuss it a little bit further. This bill went under the urgency clause last month, and it did pass 27-7 off the Senate floor. Yes, off the Senate floor. So it will be headed to the Assembly. It will go through the Assembly process next. So remember, as we spoke the last time, when Glazer brought it to the Senate, he didn't feel that he had enough votes. He didn't feel that he had enough votes, so he pulled it. So I guess you know how they do it as far as the political process. Go talk to some of your colleagues and, try to iron out some things. Maybe there were some amendments that had to be added, and there had to be an understanding of what could be mitigated and who could use the mitigation fee. Because I know there was talk about hedge funds. A lot of hedge fund managers have been purchasing newspapers across the state specifically for profit. So they want to get that understanding too, because that's the only thing that they're in the business for. A lot of this don't have to do with putting out information. It's about making money. And how do you make money? Revenues, advertising, a lot of it stuff. So yeah, so if you would like to do a third segment, maybe the final installment of the New Black Media discussing this subject, we can do that, Brother Last.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's do that then, because I think we can knock out the rest of the bill. So let's segue, man. Port Chicago, brother. I want to put up a couple of pictures here, and if you want to go through it, I know you sent me a whole bunch, man, but I couldn't upload everything. So
yes.
Let's just go through a couple of these, and if you want to describe Port Chicago, and in particular some of the photos here as we go along, brother.
Okay. So, well, just to begin here, yesterday, July 20th, 2024, of course, I drove to Port Chicago, which is near Concord. So it's about 70 miles west of Sacramento, about 35 miles northeast of San Francisco. There was a military installation there, the Port Chicago Naval Magazine. Well, in 1944, an explosion happened on July 17, 1944, which is 4 days ago. That would have been the 80th year celebration. There was two big explosions. We had some sailors who were loading ammunition onto two ships, the SS E.A. Bryan and the SS Quinault Victory. On that day, that night, two explosions happened, and it killed 320 sailors. 202 of those sailors were black. Now, this is during World War II. All four military branches were segregated. So that was the job of the African Americans, to load this munition on these ships during wartime. White officers were their commanders. That's all they had to do, is make sure that those ships were loaded. Well, it killed all these people. And it led into, well, of course, all lives lost. And it led into a famous case called the Port Chicago 50. And 258 the black sailors refused to load any more munition. This was down at Mare Island Naval Magazine, because they were transferred there to start loading bombs, since Port Chicago was completely knocked out. I mean, people disintegrated. Both the ships were destroyed. The black sailors, they had to go back and clean up the debris, and then they're picking up appendages from their fellow sailors that they work with, that they were working alongside with, loading up these ships and stuff. So they transferred these people to Vallejo, and they were ordered to start loading these bombs again. Well, 258 of them stood down. So they're not doing it. I mean, we're not properly trained to be doing this type of work. We just had a big explosion. I'm going through all these emotional and traumatic experiences. So they stood down. Eventually, 208 of those black sailors, they went back to work, but they were still court-martialed. 50 of them did not go back. They were court-martialed, convicted, and they had to serve anywhere between 8 to 15 years. Thurgood Marshall, who was representing the NAACP at the time, he took on the case. He represented the 50. They lost the case, but it brought attention to the racial policies that were happening in the Navy. So 4 years after that, after the court-martial, President Truman desegregated all 4 branches of the military. So they had this 80th anniversary there, but the special thing about it was on that day, 4 days ago, July 17, 2024, the United States Secretary of the Navy, Carlos del Toro, exonerated all 258 sailors after 80 years. That's why it was so special. Now, going in, I was already going to attend this event. There was over 500 people there. It's a memorial site right now. It's a controlled security site, to be exact. So it takes a little time to get in there, paperwork, the whole process. I didn't know that they were going to exonerate these sailors until Wednesday. So I knew this was going to be a special event. I was just going there for the first time to understand the history right there at the site. A lot of us don't know about the Port Chicago accident. But I will say this, it led to the desegregation of all 4 armed services, the Navy, Marine, Army, with the Fourth one. It led to desegregation and all that, but Thurgood Marshall, before Brown versus Board of Education, 10 years later, 1954, which he argued in a federal court and won, because that was a monumental case. Well, this is what he did 10 years before that. He didn't win, but he was effective of desegregating the military. His son was at this event yesterday, Thurgood Marshall Jr., and I spoke to him, and he said, as years passed, he said his dad didn't really talk much about this case, especially when he was sitting on the bench, because he was a United States Supreme Court justice, but he never really talked about it, at least the litigation parts of it. They talked a little bit about that, but he didn't really understand the case either until he started studying and everything. So he was there at the ceremony yesterday. What they're going to do, now they're going to create another section of that memorial site, this Sassoon Bay, where it will be called Thurgood Marshall Foundation. And with this all happening right now, they should be able to speed that up and start getting that done. The photo that you see before you, that is at Port Chicago, at the exact spot where those bombs went off. There were 2 explosions, 6 sections apart. And the post that you see in the back in the water, that is what's left of that pier. That is what's left of that pier. It was a great event yesterday. I met a lot of people. I met people, family members from the Chicago. There you go. That individual with me, that is the United States Secretary of Navy, Carlos del Toro, who's a Cuban American. He was the one who exonerated those 258 soldiers. That's the guy right there. And I'm telling you, just watching, how he moved and how he operated, meeting with the families and some of the people who came to attend the ceremony. He is a people person. He is so personal. And I told him my name once and he remembered it because I was there about 3 or 4 hours and stuff. That person right there, she flew in from Chicago. Her dad was one of the Chicago 50 who was accused of mutiny. So they were accused of rebellion against the Navy for not loading up those ships. But the only thing that they were worried about, they were concerned about, the safety and the safety protocols that were not in place. They were scared for their lives, started loading those bombs again. her dad passed away not too long ago, but he was one of the 50. So he refused to load up the ship, and he was court-martialed, and he had to spend a little time in prison. They only spent a little time in prison. They had 8 to 15 year sentences, but as soon as the war ended in 1945, they let him go quietly, and the thing was kind of swept under the rug. She herself and a few other people that I talked about, these sailors didn't really talk about that because I think there was a little shame there, of what happened and, going against their country at that time. I did talk to a prosecutor who has did reenactments of the Port Chicago trial, which took place at Treasure Island in San Francisco. Actually, hearings took place at Mirror Island in Vallejo because that's where the mutiny or the rebellion started at. But they had the trial at Treasure Island. They tried all 50 men together in a matter of a few days, and they convicted them and things like that. But I think it had a really long time effect on the rest of their lives because a lot of them did talk to their family members about this because, like I said, there may have been a little embarrassment, a little shame of what happened. But some of them, hey, they wrote it out to the day they passed away. Okay, they felt that they did what was needed, what was necessary to stand up for their civil rights, and they did. It cost them a lot, but they did.
All right,
they made a big difference. They made a big difference.
Thanks for that, brother. Appreciate that. We actually spoke with Dr. I believe his name is Javier Arbona in this Reparations Now. So if you have a chance, go check that out because he did speak about the 1942 uprising that happened a few years earlier before Port Chicago, around the same area. So, he goes into further detail with that as well. So, yeah, I mean, brother, first of all, man, as always, appreciate you and your journalistic integrity that you have. And
can I explain one more thing about that case too, so people can understand it? You start Googling and looking it up. Mm-hmm. Del Toro actually exonerated 250 soldiers. 256 black soldiers, and at the beginning of this presentation I said it was 258. Well, 2 of the men who were court-martialed, they were already broken up. One had a broken arm and someone else had some other medical ailment that was going on. They shouldn't have been brought to trial anyway. So early on, after they were court-martialed, they didn't go to trial. After they were court-martialed, they expunged their records. So it went from 258 to 256. So I just want to explain that a little bit. It's a really complicated case. And this happened, this is one of the largest, biggest home front disaster in America's history too. And it had to involve all these black men. So I just want to break that, end on that note. And thanks for letting me share that, Brother Glass, because these type of things are so dear to my heart. There's so many history activities that took place here in the state of California that I'm learning about. And that's my job, to go out, to acquire the information, put the information together and disseminate it to the mass.
Okay. So are you going to be writing an article anytime soon about?
Yes, I already have. I wrote a preview. They'll give you more details. I wrote a preview for Port Chicago commemoration, 80th year commemoration. You can Google that up, Antonio Ray Harvey. It'll pop up. It is being published in a few newspapers. And I'm going to do a follow-up story, which will come out probably towards the end of next week of the event itself. I would have tried to finish it today, but I did write a story for California Black Media right before we went on air today about Biden, dropping out the race and Kamala Harris possibly being his successor for the Democratic nominee.
Gotcha. All right, brother. Thank you for that, man. So before we get out of here, as in tradition, I know I put up some comments earlier, but just want to thank Shout out to, Reps, as always, for coming through. Haven't seen you in a minute, but thank you very much. Appreciate that. And yes, family, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that button. Hit that bell to receive updates and notifications. And shout out to our good sister Audrey for supporting this channel and becoming a member. We really appreciate you. Thank you very much. All right, family, that is it. I guess, Tony, we're going to have a part 3 then to this SB 1327 new block.
Hey, it's your call. I'm all in. I told you. We should just finish it out, because we're going to be getting more information on this, when the legislature convenes again, August 5th? They're on break right now. So we need to stay on top of this and finish this out so people understand, especially if you are in journalism.
Yeah, I mean, and see, this is the thing, man. It's very interesting because, and we'll definitely wrap it up here shortly, family. But it's interesting because, bills go through, and I know in the past, or I can't say, but I know for our platform in particular, the reason why we read bills is because we want to know what's happening, not only now, but in the future, and how it impacts our community. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I just don't know a lot of platforms, black, white, orange, green, that are doing what we're doing. And then, we have individuals like our good brother, Tony Ray Harvey, who has massive amounts of experience in journalism, to come onto this channel. Just really appreciate everybody's attention, right, to this, because it's not just about Amen the Mass Media Group. It's really about everybody participating in this particular process, not only here in California, but all throughout the state and on a federal level. So you can get involved, and you can be an advocate, and you read bills, and you get politically active and aware to see what's coming down the pipe in your particular locale, your municipality, and your state and federal. So that's what we do. Hopefully we'll be getting more support in the near future, but the support that we do have, we really greatly appreciate you, because we know that everybody that is listening has some level of intelligence and wants to be active. So on the note, Brother Tone, is there anything you'd like to say, man, before we get out of here?
Hey, thanks for inviting me on the show. I'm always try to be available to speak to our community about these type of issues, and it really is important that we read through these bills and try to understand what they are and what they mean, and what they mean to us. How it affects us and stuff. So thank you for letting me have that opportunity to do that once again. Of course, I'll be back on as many times that you request, Brother Glass, because these type of things are really, really important. And no, there is no one out there doing, what Amen the Mass Media is doing. That's why I appreciate you and Kim Mims and Darlene Crumley as well for the work that you do. Peace, love, and solidarity.
Peace, love, and solidarity. All right, family, on that note, everybody have a wonderful Sunday. We'll be continuing this conversation and many more conversations. All right. Take care of yourself, you and your family. And on that note, peace and reparations.
Did you ever think what it would be like traveling along in an open car without a windshield? Boy, you wouldn't go very far before you got all splattered with mud. And you'd have to keep your eyes closed so as not to be blinded by the dust. Well, when you're traveling along in life, Rangers, common sense acts as a pretty important windshield. It lets you see where you're going.
I am the greatest. Leading with Lineage.
California Reparations Task Force hearings.
Final report recommendations.
California Freedmen Affairs Agency, CAFA office.
The Fund for Reparations and Reparative Justice.
Free the land, eminent domain, unjust property taking return.
The Mass Media Group was there. Reparations Now, the documentary where it all began.
Released Juneteenth, 2023.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR rules, don't tune in.
Available to watch on Tubi TV and other streaming outlets. As always, thank you for the support. Please like, share, and subscribe to your number one source for reparations and news. Until next time, peace and reparations.